picks and predictions presented by Geico. Switch and save, get more with Geico. You know, we've got our quarterback, Danny Kanell, on set with us today. So, of course, we had to talk quarterbacks. This is Pete Prisco's top quarterbacks in the NFL. He's high on Patrick Mahomes, who comes in at number 1. He also believes the Buffalo Bills could win the Super Bowl this year, so that's where we find Josh Allen at number 2. I've got Dak Prescott represented on this list, so I'm feeling good. Let's talk about each one of them as we break them down for you here on CBS Sports HQ. Haley Sutton, happy to be joined by Pete Prisco and Danny Kanell. Guys, want to pick up the conversation? I will say that as we go through this, we're going alphabetically, so people at home, we're starting with Josh Allen. This is alphabetical by last name, but Pete, it all starts with Josh Allen there at number 1.
Yeah, and look, he's a better quarterback now than he was 2 years ago. And I think Joe Brady has instilled in him to get the ball to the right guy. You know, everybody always talks about they don't have the number 1 wide receiver, but he knows where to go with the football. And I think getting Dalton Kincaid back this year, they'll be even better. I love where he is. I talked to him when I was there at camp. He feels great, got married. He's a different guy. They say he's first one in, even more so than he's ever been. So I think he's going to have a big year. He was MVP last year. I think his numbers go up this year.
That's a pretty tough bar to set, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does either. There's something about comfortability. He's getting more comfortable in that system. That pairing with Joe Brady really seems to be flourishing. He's getting more comfortable with how to use his legs, kind of protect his body a little bit more. So I totally agree with you.
Let's go to Joe Burrow next. Again, alphabetical order here, but Joe Burrow was like this close to having the Bengals in the playoffs last year. How do you feel about him winning a Super Bowl?
Well, he can win a Super Bowl if the defense gives him some help. He's going to put up big numbers again. He rolled up monster numbers last year. Joe Burrow is great at navigating the pocket, finding guys. He doesn't move like some of these other guys in terms of running, but he can move to throw. And with those guys back, with Chase and Higgins back, they're going to put up big numbers in that passing game.
The only thing I worry him is he this generation's Dan Marino, a guy who went to the Super Bowl early, lost it, and then because they can't figure out the defense, do they screw that up? Because they've given him so many offensive weapons, but he absolutely is one of those quarterbacks who can take his team there.
That's a great comparison, Dan Marino.
Hopefully not for Bengals fans.
Well, just the comparison there.
Joe Burrow's like, don't say that. Although being compared to Dan Marino is okay.
Yeah, it's like levels, right? Like you want the skill, but maybe not the non-Super Bowls. Let's talk about Jaden Daniels. And Danny, I'll actually ask you about this because everything around Jaden right now is avoiding that sophomore slump. So put us in the quarterback's shoes right now. How do you avoid that sophomore slump?
I mean, this is where you've got to trust the work ethic, you got to trust the process, and you got to be ready for what defenses are going to throw at you this year. I know Pete says it all the time. You've got a whole year of film that people have watched. They're going to attack Jaden Daniels differently, try to take his legs a little bit more, but I do love what Washington has done by shoring up that offensive line, by making sure Terry McLaurin is happy and getting him under contract, and this sky is the limit for this kid, and I don't think they'll have the issues that Houston had protecting C.J. Stroud last year.
And that was the issue for C.J. Stroud. It won't be the issue here. Although one of those guys that was protecting C.J. Stroud is going to be protecting Jay Daniels and Laramie Tunsil. So, but they're better on the offensive line. Once they get Cosmi back, he'll come back at some point to play right guard. He's their best offensive lineman. I think they're going to be much better, stouter up front, which will make him even better.
Of course, we're talking about 10 quarterbacks that could take their team to a Super Bowl. We go to Jared Goff next, a guy who had so much offensive firepower last year. 37 passing touchdowns last year, Pete. That was the second most in team history. But how does he take the Lions to the next step?
Well, I think it's going to be an adjustment without Ben Johnson. I mean, John Morton takes over as play caller. It's going to change the way you play. Is he going to be as creative? Can he be as gimmicky? There's going to be a lot of things at play here. But more concerning to me than that is the offensive line. You have big changes there. Frank Ragnow's not there anymore. They're going to have 2 new guards. So it's tough to adjust to that. So it'll be interesting to see how much pressure, interior pressure, he gets early in the season. Jared Goff's not a great quarterback when he gets interior pressure. Nobody is, but he's going to have a problem if they can't block.
I still think even without Ben Johnson and even with a new offensive line, they still have a very clear identity of what they want to be with him working off play action pass, still has the skill positions on the outside. And this feels like a franchise which is ready to knock it through. And I think Jared Goff is one of the more underrated, underappreciated quarterbacks in the entire NFL. The guy can flat out play.
He's led the league in passing yards and touchdowns over the last couple of seasons. So to your point, underrated. Let's talk about the Super Bowl MVP and Jalen Hurts. And Danny, there's been so much conversation this offseason about is he good? Is he not good? Is he worthy? Where do you stand with Jalen Hurts here?
It doesn't matter. Like, is he a top 5 quarterback? I don't care. This conversation, can he win a Super Bowl? He's already proven he can do that. And multiple times he's went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and played at least better than him in some of them when he wins wins it. And even the game that they lost, you could argue he was just as good as Patrick Mahomes. Clearly, he's a quarterback. He's got the intangibles that every coach would love to have in their franchise quarterback. He is a winner. That's the best compliment you could pay him.
He shows up in the big moments. Look, he didn't have a great season last year. Early on in the season, he wasn't putting up big numbers. But he shows up in the playoffs. He shows up in the big moments. And his ability to move and run is such a big part of their offense that it's hard to rank him because you don't put up gaudy passing numbers, but he wins big games and he shows up in the big moments.
What about a guy like Lamar Jackson, who we know just like the most incredible offensive performance last year, Pete? How can he take it to the next level? Because just like a lot of these guys, no Super Bowl.
Well, you got to flip the conversation we just had because he rolls up amazing numbers in the regular season, and you look at him, you say, hey, he's in MVP conversation every single year. But when you get to the postseason, it hasn't worked out. He's got to be better in the postseason. The Ravens have to be better in the postseason, and that's kind of the story of Lamar Jackson. His regular season is fantastic, but it's all about the postseason.
I think he breaks through. I actually think Lamar and the Ravens get it done this year. This is my pick to win the Super Bowl. I think it's one of those questions that comes around every great quarterback, and that's how you're judged by the greatest of all times. How do you play in the postseason? I think he breaks through that barrier this season. The addition of Derrick Henry last year really opened that offense up. I think the defense gets better, and I think he silences all those critics this season.
And he was really mad at the end of that game last year that they lost, took a lot of accountability there. Let's talk about Jordan Love. And Pete, you've already have the Packers penciled in to the Super Bowl. Something you said yesterday, though, was very interesting. You mentioned that Jordan Love played most of the season injured last year. So how will a healthy Jordan Love compare?
And didn't practice that much. And in talking to the Packers people, he needs to practice. He gets bad habits when he doesn't practice. He throws off, he falls back, he throws falling back. I think him practicing, he's missed a little time with the thumb injury, but that's on the opposite hand. Shouldn't be an issue. He says it's not going to be an issue. If he practices all year, I think he gets back to what we saw the year before, putting up monster numbers. And by the way, people say, they don't have number one wide receiver. They got plenty of wide receivers. He's going to have a big year throwing the football.
Yeah, maybe you don't have that alpha, that top-tier wide receiver, but they got him across the board. He is uber talented. He looks like a mini version of Aaron Rodgers. When you watch some of the arm angles that he takes, you can tell he watched and learned from him. He definitely has the talent. And Green Bay's been a consistent team there. If he was on a team in the AFC, I might push back against this, but the NFC does feel so much more gettable because you don't have that slew of quarterbacks to go through.
Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes, because Travis Kelce has taken all of the spotlight from his teammate. It's kind of, though, Danny, it's kind of allowed Patrick to almost slide under the radar, which feels ridiculous to say about Patrick Mahomes, but that's kind of how it feels.
It does. I mean, we just got so used to seeing them play for Super Bowls, and I think we probably still will see it again. And last year they had this incredible regular season record, and yet we were nitpicking them saying, man, are they that good? And then they had the horrible performance in the Super Bowl, so people have kind of written them off and looking for the next trendy, up-and-coming team or quarterback that's there. But this is the best quarterback in the game today. It doesn't matter what's around him. It doesn't matter where Travis Kelce is his career. I know they want to emphasize the deep ball. I think they'll try to manage those shots down the field and get some more speed at the receiver position, but this is one of the most obvious ones out there.
I picked them to be the MVP this year. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I picked them to win the MVP. The reason being, I think the offensive line is back. Josh Simmons at left tackle is going to be one of the best in this league. They stole him when they drafted him at the back end. They're going to be stouter up front. They're going to be able to take those deep shots. Worthy started going. Hollywood Brown's back. He will put up big numbers again. It's going to look like Patrick Mahomes again instead of the game manager, according to Leger.
No, we will never live that down. Pete, I want to keep you on Baker Mayfield here because you were at Bucs practice. What did you see out of Baker?
And talk to him and spend time with him, and he's a confident guy. You get all 11 starters back on offense, and then you add Ibuka to it, the wide receiver, as a rookie who they rave about. They're going to be good again on offense. New play caller, Josh Gazard, takes over. He's never called plays. We'll see how he does.
And then, Danny, I'll talk to you about Dak Prescott here as we take a look.
Haley, you got to love this one.
I do. I'm just happy to be included. You know how I am with the Cowboys. But you and I agree on this multiple times. Like, Dak is a good quarterback.
He is. I mean, statistically, he's always around the top 5, most passing categories. This, to me, feels a little bit similar to some of the teams we were talking about earlier. Like, can the defense figure out? They got to get Micah Parsons happy. Can the defensive side of the ball pick up their weight and pull their end of the bargain? If they do, there is no question Dak can do it. But similar, postseason, lack of success. It's a critique that happens to every quarterback in the game. It's how you're judged, and Dak has to step up in those moments too.
If he played for any other team, I think.
Well, he led the league in touchdown passes the year he played 2 years ago. I mean,
right.
And now he has George Pickens, so the field is leveled a little bit more.
We'll see. I'm not going to get too excited. We have about a minute left, so I kind of want to ask you guys here names that were not mentioned. Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy. Pete, I'll come to you first. Who do you believe in more, Stafford or Purdy this year?
Purdy because he doesn't have a back issue. I worry about the back. I mean, if they're both healthy on the field, I would probably take Stafford because he's done it and won the big one. I think when you look at Purdy, if he's healthy, if he's not healthy, Purdy can put up big numbers.
I would have put both of these guys and made it a top 12 list. I think both of them can. I mean, obviously, we've seen Matthew Stafford do it. We've seen Brock Purdy get there. They made the addition to Sky Moore. They're trying to, shore up Christian McCaffrey's health. They add some depth in the backfield, bringing in Brian Robinson Jr. And Matthew Stafford, one thing I totally agree with you, Pete, on the back. I can't figure out if it's something that it was kind of a training camp injury, rest the veteran, you don't want to rush him out there. But if this is lingering, that dramatically changes the outlook for the Rams.
All right, back injury being a concern there, but Pete and Danny giving you 10 quarterbacks that could win the Super Bowl in 2025. One of them is Dak Prescott. Hello. You can catch the NFL returning to CBS on Sundays. The action gets underway on September 7th, and as always, you can stream the action on Paramount+.